So I just watched Finestkind, the brand new film from director Brian Helgeland, sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong, and it stars Jenna Ortega, Toby Wallace, Tommy Lee Jones, and Ben Foster. And I've got some things to say about it because I was not the biggest fan of this one. Now, this is a movie that I had actually heard kind of a lot about coming out of the festivals. I heard that I heard a lot of people say that they really enjoyed the film, and a lot of people that did not like it at all. It was a very mixed bag when it came to the reviews, which meant it was a movie that I genuinely was looking forward to. Because the film does have an interesting premise and an interesting plot. It's about these two brothers that come from completely opposite sides of life. One is a fisherman, the other one's about to go to law school, and they sort of come together and get involved in this organized crime scheme as Jenna Ortega plays this woman character who kind of gets in the middle of the whole conflict. And that to me sounds like an interesting plot, especially with it taking place in Boston and with this kind of sounding like something that Matt Damon and Ben Affleck would have made. It definitely got my interest and it seemed like something that could be cool, and I actually thought the first trailer was pretty cool for it as well. And I will say the first like 30 minutes does kind of sell a really decent movie set in this world, although it doesn't sell that plot line that I just read out. I felt like I was watching a completely different movie than was originally sold to me by the plot premises. So Toby Wallace plays the main character, this guy Charlie, and he's really this extremely smart kid who wants to spend what I believe is his summer going fishing with his brother, who is kind of like this rundown fisherman. He hasn't really had a very successful life. He's not as smart as his brother, but he's this fisherman and he wants to go fishing with him. A lot of stuff happens, a lot of stuff that I thought was really entertaining, and just kind of seeing the life of a Boston fisherman was interesting to me. Then Jenna Ortega gets involved and all the dweebs on the internet go crazy. I'm gonna be honest, it's kind of weird for me seeing Jenna Ortega in a role like this, because the first time I'd ever seen her in a film, she was like 12, and I've just always kind of had that image of her in my head, of her being like a little kid. So seeing her do movies like this, it's kind of icky. For a better example, imagine watching Game of Thrones Season 1 as the show's coming out, and you see Arya Stark, and she's really, really young. And then you watch the last season, and you see some of the stuff her character does, and it's just kind of gross. It's a weird, gross feeling. And yeah, her character does some weird stuff in this movie that's kind of gross for me to watch, just as somebody who watched her, you know, not that long ago when she was younger. So for me, it doesn't work. But I know all the weirdos and dweebs on the internet are freaking out at this movie just because of that stuff. But performance-wise, Jenna Ortega's fine here. It's definitely not her best role. It's nothing super memorable. Tommy Lee Jones is fine. Toby Wallace, I think, is strong, especially early on in the movie. And Ben Foster is always great. The performances here are fine. They do the best they can with the script. And that's my main problem with this movie, is really the screenplay. I feel like there are some scenes in this movie that felt like they were written by like an AI-generated resource. And I know this film probably had really talented writers behind it, but some of it just felt so like underthought and so like thrown together. The dialogue was just so simple and cookie cutter, and some interactions between characters were just not, I mean, it took me out of the movie. They were so like barren and cardboard. And I gotta be honest, because of that, because it was constantly taking me out of the movie, as the movie dove into its more exciting second and third acts where it becomes more of like this weird crime thriller thing, I just wasn't as interested or engaged at all. I actually felt disconnected from the film and very distracted. And yeah, part of the reason is because I didn't get to see this in a movie theater where I would have been forced to be engaged. It's one of the best things about movie theaters. It's hard to be distracted when you have a gigantic screen in front of you. I watched this at home and it was easier for me to be distracted. So this film really had to hook me, and it just never did. And the whole second half of this film just felt super forgettable, and I think that second half was intended to be so much better than the first half, which is a lot of kind of slow moving, you know, setup stuff. But the first act, where it was just guys being guys and people hanging out in Boston and fishing, that's kind of what I enjoyed most about this movie. That's kind of what I wanted to see more of, because it reminded me of a very small budget-esque movie set in this area that for some reason produces many, many, many great movies in the Boston area, these small Boston stories. And that's kind of what I wanted more out of in this film, and I didn't really get it. And therefore, the second act of this movie and the third act just kind of fell flat for me, and the film kind of barrels towards an ending that is whatever. I mean, it's not the worst. But overall, this film is just one of those movies that I believe is going to be completely forgettable by the time the end of the year runs around, which is only 2 weeks away. This is a film that I'm going to completely forget existed in this year. It's a film that just did not do much for me. But hey, maybe that's just me. Maybe you guys will watch this movie and you'll love it. I know there are some people that do really enjoy this movie. So if you're one of those people, well, bravo to you, because I am not. So because of all that, I'm going to give Finestkind a 2 out of 5. It just wasn't my thing. So that's the video, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Make sure to like and subscribe for more and turn on notifications. Click the video that's on your screen right now, and I will see you in the next one.